Good evening. This is Elaine Jackson, your Holistic Project Manager from the Holistic Project Management Consulting. This evening, we have an esteemed guest from New York, a very well-known trainer who has been interacting with Holistic PMC for the last, I would say the last 8 months, Sohel Akhter. And Sohel and I met because we both did business with someone that was not very ethical. So we had extensive conversations about ethics and how things should be for trainers and for students. Sohel has placed out a book, couple of books, and also a reference guide. And for today, we are here to look at the guide, to ask him any questions. Some of you have purchased some of his materials, so in appreciation, I asked him to come and just do a little presentation to talk and be able to answer any questions that maybe you had that was above and beyond maybe some of the scope that we've covered in the class. So Sohel, welcome. And I'm going to start the slides, moving through the slides. And this presentation is being recorded so that Sohel can use it on his website or for whatever means he needs with his students. He has quite a few credentials, and the most important one for today is knowing that he has his PMP, that he's a trainer at SUNY, that's the City University, I think, of New York, and he's written a couple of books. So one of the books is the Project Management Professional Certification Exam Prep. This is the book that I have been using recently. Not that any of the other books that I used are obsolete or not good, but I wanted to try out some other sources so that I'm not stuck just using the same material all the time. As a trainer, I need to be able to be excited about the material and say, oh, wow, look at this slide, or look at this diagram. So what I suggest that you do is go on the web, and if you have friends that are studying and they're saying, well, what book should I use? Definitely, I would recommend using this book as another resource. This reference guide is one of the things that Sohel is going to be talking about. It's about 8 pages, so it sort of folds something like a cart anyway, but the front panel that you see here, there's 7 other sides, and they're all connected. And it has unbelievable information going by knowledge areas, covering all the details in a very high-level way that would be an extensive brain dump to give you an opportunity to remind yourself what you should be studying. Now, you can't just use this reference guide, not do any studying, and think you're going to pass the exam. This reference guide is like an extended brain dump with a lot more details to remind you of what you need to go back to the books and review. PMBOK, we all know this book. 5th edition is what we're using now. Of course, at some point I'll ask Sohel about whether the PMBOK, if someone can get by with just his book or just the PMBOK to be able to pass the exam. So Sohel, I'm going to turn the meeting now over to you. I'm going to give you the control. Everyone, this is Sohel Akhter. Welcome.
Thanks a lot, Elaine.
You're welcome. 1 second, I'm giving you the control.
Yeah, sure. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes, I see your slide. I see your desktop. I see everything, yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you, Elaine, for setting up this session. I really appreciate that. And also thank you for using my book and my training, other training materials like my quick reference guide for your PMP training session. It means a lot to me. Okay, so today what I will do is I will try to answer some of the questions that you have over here. And so the first one is about PMP test banks that you find on the web. Most of the test banks that I tried out, actually they are pretty old. Right now we have PMBOK 5th edition. So in this latest edition, there are quite some new changes actually. We have a new knowledge area. We have 5 or 6 new processes. We used to have 42 processes. Now we have 47 processes. So we have 5 new processes. A lot of input outputs were changed, what PMI did in this new version, they broke down communications management into communication management and stakeholder management. So there are quite some changes, all right? So most of the exam banks that you can find on the web, they may be free sites, but I noticed that the questions are pretty old. So it's very risky to use that kind of old exam banks. So my suggestion to you will be, whatever book you like, stick with one or two books. There are quite some good books in the market. Another suggestion I will give you. So go through all the questions in those books that you like. Another thing you can do, you can go to this site. It's called examcentral.net. So the reason I like this site is a exam simulator. It's a free site. You can go there anytime and create an account. The reason I like it because you can do question search by knowledge areas and also by process groups. So that's a very nice feature that you will see there. Another reason I like it because you can use this site in exam mode or study mode. You can take as many 4 hours exam as you want, okay? And it will save your scores. Another great feature that it has, it will show your scores, or it will give out your results in different process groups and in different knowledge areas. So you can easily identify which one is your weak area, which one is your strong area. So I will highly recommend to go to this site. It's a free site, so I will not really guarantee you the quality of the questions. But so far I see the questions are, I will not say very, very close to the exam, but to practice, it's a great site. So my recommendation will be to go to this site and create an account and take exams over there. One more thing that I will suggest to you, okay, so there are 2 more sites, okay. You can go to Testing. Testing is a paid site, you have to pay for it, or you can also go to Skillsoft. Okay, so these are the 2 good sites that I know of, and I use them. And they're a bit expensive, but if you really want quality exam banks, I will also recommend you to go to those 2 sites. All right, and of course it is, as I said, the question is this very risky, especially for the new students? Yes, it is. If you don't know what are the new changes, you will not be able to differentiate between an old question and a new question, okay? So it is very risky, so I will highly suggest you to go to a site. If you even have to pay a little bit, pay for it, but have the most up-to-date and latest questions, all right? Next one, how the questions constructed for the exam, who creates them, why they are so confusing. Now, let me comment about the third one, okay, why they are so confusing. It's intentional. This exam is extremely difficult, no doubt about that. And then also, you want it to be that way because you don't want every single project manager to have this certificate. If it is the case, then there will be no value of this certificate, all right? So PMI intentionally, they made it really confusing, extremely difficult to pass. All right, so there is a reason behind it. And they have volunteers, they have domain experts. I give questions to PMI all the time, so they collect questions from different volunteers and different domain experts, okay. They collect the questions from different books as well, and then they select their questions. So they have huge exam bank, so randomly they will select 200 questions for your exam. So does this cause problem for those that English is not the first language? Well, just to let you know that, there are language aid. So let me show you. So languages are available in 13 languages: Arabic, Brazilian, Chinese, French, German, Hebrew, Italian, Japanese, Korean, Russian, Spanish, and Turkish. Okay, so if you need help in any of those languages, you can always ask for help. When you do your registration, you can mention, in which language you may need help. All right, and then they will provide you help for free. Okay, so now, so thing is that it doesn't matter how many years of experience you have, it doesn't matter how much you know. if you don't practice a lot of questions, it will be very difficult to pass this test, because the way they will structure the question, the way they will ask you things, even though you know the answer, you will not be able to answer it correctly. Okay, so you really need to know their tricks. You really need to practice at least 1,000 questions before you sit for the exam. So what I suggest everyone, so I got like 530 questions in my book. The feedback that I'm getting from the customers, that those are really close to the real exam. So what I can suggest you go through the 530 questions in the book, and there is a very good chance that you'll be able to pass this test. But again, I suggest everyone to go through at least 1,000 questions before they sit for the exam. So 530 questions plus another 470 questions. If you can go to Exam Central, or you can go to any page site and practice the remaining 470 questions before you sit for the exam. All right. So if you practice a lot, then you'll see, you'll get used to their tricks. You will get familiar with their pattern of questions, and those questions will be not that confusing anymore. Okay. So again, let's see, next one. Why some of your math examples very detailed? Well, the reason behind it, as I said, let me show you something. So if you go to Amazon.com, okay, and you do a quick search on my name, you will see a lot of comments and feedback about the book, and also about the quick reference guide. So the impression that I'm getting from all this, that if you look at the newest one, see, like recently a lot of participants, they took the exam, and the feedback that I'm getting from this, like they just use my book, and that's the only material they use, and they're saying like the exam questions were very, very close to the question that I have in the book. All right. So again, if you go through those 530 questions that I have, you will see that you're getting a lot of confidence. And what I try to do, I try to make them as difficult as possible and very close to the real life exam. I try to cover every single concept, every single topic that they can ask you about in the exam. All right. So I will highly suggest you to go through all the questions and understand the justifications. Make sure you understand why a certain answer is right, what a certain answer is wrong. Okay. So I give detailed explanation of all those 530 questions. And also, if you have the book, you'll see after every topic I got like around 25 to 30 questions, and also at the back of the book I have 200 questions. Okay, it's a full 4-hour exam. So again, go through that 200 question exam as well, and if your score is somewhere at 85%, then you're 100% ready for the exam. Okay. All right, next one. Why some of your math examples are very detailed? The reason behind it, you will have somewhere between 35 to 45 formula questions. Okay, it's a lot. You need to really remember all your 27, 28 formulas. You need to know how to use them. All right, and then in some questions you will see to get the answer you have to use 3-4 formulas. Okay, and then you will get the answer, and that's the reason some of my math examples are very detailed. All right, so what I can suggest to you is this. If you go to my quick reference guide, this is the quick reference guide. This is a summary sheet, or I call it a cheat sheet. So in order to pass the exam, okay, there are 4 or 5 things that you need to do. One of the most important items in that list is you have to have this summary sheet or cheat sheet ready in less than 10 minutes. So when you go for the exam, they will give you 15 minutes for a tutorial. All right. So on tutorial on how to use the system, it will talk about the exam a little bit. So you're not gonna spend more than 4 or 5 minutes on that. So remaining 11, 12 minutes or whatever amount of time you have, I will highly suggest you to come up with a summary sheet or cheat sheet just like this one, where you're gonna write down all your 27, 28 formulas and all your 47 processes in a shortcut like this one. Like say, like integration management, the first process is develop project charter, and I see DPC, okay? So that's what you need to do. In 10 minutes time, you write down all your processes and you write down all your formulas. Because, see, now, a lot of answers will be coming directly from this cheat sheet, all right? You've got a lot of answers. See, 4 hours is not enough. I mean, I talk with the participants all the time, okay? All right, I talk with the participants all the time, and the impression that I'm getting from them, they all run out of time in the exam, okay? They all ran out of time. So you don't have too much time to think during the exam. So what you do is, if it is a formula questions, all you do is you look at the formula to use and you just plug in the values, all right? If it is a process-related questions, you know, most of them will be situational questions. They will be asking you what to do next, what is the best course of action, what is the best course of action. So you should get your answer right from your process list and the sequence, okay? So let me give you a quick example. Say in the exam, they are telling you, you just came up with the requirement document, okay? And what item or what document you should be working on next. And they give you options like activities. They give you option like work breakdown structure. They give you option like your budget, all right? So now look at this. So you know, like my process here is collect requirement that gives me the requirement document. After that, then I have the define scope that gives me the scope statement document, and then I have the create work breakdown structure that gives me the work breakdown structure here. So this is the sequence. So before I work on my activities from define activities, or before I work on my budget from determine budget, I need to work on my work breakdown structure, okay? So looking at this, if you have this sequence, if you have these processes in front of you, and you know what are the key outputs, you can easily figure out after a requirement document, you are supposed to work on your scope statement document and then your work breakdown structure, and then you are supposed to come up with your activities from your work breakdown structure, okay? You don't really have to think. The answer is right in front of you. So I will highly suggest you to come up with this cheat sheet or summary sheet. Practice it a lot, okay? Make sure that you can come up with this summary sheet in less than 10 minutes. And around 70-75 questions you'll be able to answer right from this cheat sheet. Okay, so it's a must thing to do to pass the test. Okay, next one is, let me see. Okay, so if even you see, like, you know, some of my math examples are very detailed. If you can just figure out what the question is asking you, what they're asking you to find out, and what formulas you need to use. So then, you know, if you have the cheat sheet in front of you, just look at the formulas, plug in the values, and you'll see those math examples will not be too difficult to solve. Okay? All right. Next one. Why is the network diagram starting with 1 instead of 0? All right. And you get the same conclusions, right? Yes. Let me explain it a little bit, okay? I think I need to explain it a little bit. Let me go here. Why I use 1 and why I don't use 0. Because honestly speaking, 0 doesn't make sense at all to me. Microsoft Project uses 1 as the first work week. And also, I will explain to you now why work week 1 makes sense and work week 0 doesn't make sense to me. But the good thing is that you can use either 0 if you're okay with it. You know, if you think that, you know, the calculation is a lot easier starting with 0, you feel free to do that. In my book, I recommended you to start with 1, and let me explain why. Another thing. Okay. So another thing is, you know, I showed you a very simple and, you know, very easy way to calculate your early start, early finish, late start, and late finish. You don't really have to do backward pass and forward pass and spend like 20-30 minutes to solve one question. Okay, you don't have to do any of it. If you can just remember one simple formula, you should be able to do it very fast. So I'm not going to spend too much time. I will very quickly go through it. I will just quickly tell you how you can get early start, early finish, late start, and late finish. And then I will explain to you why I always start with work week 1 but not work week 0. Okay? All right. So let me quickly explain it to you a little bit, and then I will go through why work week 1 not 0. Okay. Say you have a start date. The start date is say March 3rd. And the duration is, say, 4 days. Now, if I ask you, what is your end date, all right? What is your end date? And you will say, well, it's simple. It will be 3-3, and I will just add 4 days to it. So 3-3, 3-4, 3-5, 3-6. 3-6 will be my end date, okay? So don't forget to add, your start date as well. You have to, you have to count 3-3 as well. So it's 3-6 is your end date. So you can say, well, you can easily write a formula like this. So end date is your start date plus your duration minus 1. All right. So is end date 3-6 is start date 3-3 plus 4. So 3 plus 4 is 3-7, and minus 1 is your 3-6. Okay. So you can easily say, well, this is one formula that I don't really have to remember because it makes sense. I can say end date is start date plus duration minus 1. Okay. So if you agree with me on this one. Now let's look at this. So early start is the earliest you can start a task. You know that, or the soonest you can start the task. Early finish is the soonest you can finish the task. And the formula that I just came up here with, your end date is your start date plus duration minus 1. That's the exact formula I wrote here. I'm saying early finish is my early start, all right, or my start date plus duration minus 1. I wrote the same formula for late finish, okay? So late finish is late start plus duration minus 1. Exactly the same formula. What is late start? You don't really have to start the first activity or any activity on the very first day of your project. You can wait, all right? So the late start is the latest you can start your task without delaying the project. That is your late start. And late finish is the same thing, the latest you can finish your task without delaying the project. Now, I told you, you have to remember only one formula, and you can easily find out your early start, early finish, late start, and late finish. And the formula is this. Your late start is your early start plus your buffer or float for that activity, okay? So if you just look at right now, don't have to remember or anything, just look at the formula. Now let me show you. So this is your network diagram. You start with two activities, A and D. Activity B is depending on A. Activity, E is depending on D, and F is depending on E. And if you look at C, C is all depending on both B and D. All right. So I said, okay, I will not start with 0. I will start with 1. Okay. So since activity A has no dependency, I can say my start date for early start date. The earliest I can start activity A is work week 1. Now the duration for activity A is 2 weeks. All right. So my early finish would be 1 plus 2, 3 minus 1, 2. All right. Now just to know that I have a 5 weeks of buffer for activity A. I found it out earlier. Okay. So I have 5 weeks of buffer. So now what is my late start? My late start would be my early start plus my buffer or float. So 1 plus 5 is 6. Now what is my late finish? Late finish is again the same thing. My late start plus my duration minus 1. So 6 plus 2, 8 minus 1 is 7. All right. Good. Now look at this. So you need to know a little bit more here. All right. So when I'm saying that my early start for activity A is 1 and my early finish is 2. All right. So what do I really mean by that? What I mean by that is, when I see my early start is 1, I meant the first day of work week 1. Then I also work on the second day of work week 1 and the third day of work week 1 and the fourth day and the fifth day, okay? Now I have the weekend. Then I start again on the first day of work week 2, the second day of work week 2, the third day of work week 2, the fourth day, and the fifth day, okay? So then I have the weekend again. Now, so look at this. So when you see that, so you're saying, well, I start my activity A on the first day of work week 1 and I finish it, the earliest I can finish it will be the last day of work week 2. Then I will have the weekend. So now if I ask you, well, your activity B is depending on activity A, and the earliest you can finish activity A is work week 2, what will be the earliest start for activity B? And you said, well, you know, I am already at the end of work week 2, now I will have the weekend, so the earliest I can start activity B will be work week 3. All right? Okay, so that's how we calculate. Now, let me just show you B, and then I will move on to the next topic. So for 3, you know, early start is 3, so early finish will be 3 plus 1 minus 1 is 3. I have, again, 5 weeks of buffer for activity B, so my late start will be 3 plus 5, 8. My late finish will be 8 plus 1 minus 1, 8. All right, so that is how, very quick way, if you just remember one simple formula, this one here, you can easily calculate your early start, early finish, late start, late finish. All right. Now, again, why I use 1 and why I don't use 0. See, if I use 1, I can clearly see that I have 2 weeks of duration, and I'm starting my activity A on the first day of work week 1. I'm taking 2 weeks, so this is 1 week, 1 work week, and then this is another work week. Okay, so this is 1 plus 1, 2 work weeks I have. So I can easily see that. Okay, so I will start activity A on the first day of work week 1, and I will finish it. The earliest I can finish it will be the last day of work week 2. Then I can clearly tell to say that I have the weekend after that. So B will start on work week 3, the first day of work week 3. Now, if I start with 0, what will happen? So if I start with 0, you know, the good thing is your end date your finish date will always be the same. All right, regardless you start with 0 or 1. So if I start with 0, now what I will say that, well, if I start with 0, so for activity A, all right, my early start will be 0, and my early finish will be 0 plus 2. My early finish will be 2. All right. Now, for activity B, again, I will say my early start will be 2, and my early finish will be 2 plus 1, 3. All right. So now, if it is the case, I don't know exactly, you know, when in work week 2 you are finishing activity A and starting activity B. Is that second day of work week 2, third day of work week 2? There is no clear distinction here, okay, like what we have over here. So, I mean, it's kind of confusing that way. But if you look at it, okay, my early finish is work week 2 if I use the early start as work week 1. My early finish is again the same 2 even if I start with 0, okay? So your early finish or your late finish, those will be always same. So it doesn't matter if you're using, you know, 0 or if you're using 1 as your, you know, early start. It doesn't matter. So in order to find out which one is the right answer in the exam, you just look at the end date, okay? And then you see, okay, which one is the correct answer. So look at the end dates only. Don't look at the start date. So that will give you the correct answer. All right? So does it make sense, you guys, you know, why I'm using 1, not 0? But again, it's up to you. As I said, you'll get the same end dates for both of them. Okay? So it doesn't matter what you're using. All right? Okay. So next one. Okay. Explain the solution to choose crashing over fast tracking when there is money left in the budget. I think the question should be explain the solution to choose fast tracking over crashing when there is money left in budget. But anyway, let me tell you, you know, when we choose fast tracking and when we choose crashing. Okay. So let me talk about it a little bit. Okay. So let's look at this. So, you know, when you come up with project schedule, you need to optimize it. Also, you need to crash your project or fast track your project when your project is getting delayed. So mostly we use two techniques. One is called fast tracking, another one is called crashing. So fast tracking, when you do activities in parallel, mostly the critical path activities. All right. So when you do critical path activities in parallel, we call it fast tracking. All right. So now let me give you a quick example. Say, this is your construction project. You're supposed to finish your drywall in 15 days. Once the drywall is completed, you're supposed to work on your painting, take 8 days to finish your painting. And when your painting is completed, then you're supposed to start working on your carpeting and take 8 days to complete your carpeting. All right. So total, you need 15 plus 8 plus 8, 31 days. Now, your project is getting delayed, and you want to, fast track it, meaning that you want to do things in parallel. So you're saying, well, let me do this. I don't really want to wait for the painting to be completed. I will do painting and carpeting simultaneously, all right, at the same time, to save a lot of time in the project. So if you do that, there may be some risk. Maybe, so initially, if you look at this scenario, when these guys are doing the painting, maybe only 5 guys are working, okay, in one room. Now they are done, they will leave, then another 10 guys will come to do the carpeting, okay. So in the second case, while those 5 guys are working on the painting, those 10 guys are working on the carpeting. So we have 15 guys in the same room. So more people working at the same times means, it's a lot of potential for conflicts. You have to, you need to really manage them very closely. So we are taking those kind of risks. And also when the painting team is painting a wall, you cannot work on the carpet on that side. Maybe you need to cover up the carpet, things like that. So maybe it will take an additional day to complete your painting. Maybe it will take 2 additional days to complete your carpeting. But still, you'll be saving a lot of time, because in the second scenario, when you're doing fast tracking, your duration is 15 plus 10, 25 days. So you're saving 6 days. Okay? So now, when we do crashing, not fast tracking, and when we do fast tracking, not crashing, let me explain it to you that. So before I do that, let me briefly talk about crashing. Crashing is when you add additional resources, mostly to your critical path activities. All right, that is called crashing. So now, if you add additional resources, maybe most of the time those resources will be coming from outside of your project. So obviously it will cost you money. Okay, so I mean, you can consider that if you have budget for additional resources, you can always consider that. Now, one more thing you can say, well, I have a lot of buffers for my activities that are not on the critical path. Maybe I have 10, 15 weeks of buffer from one activity. Why don't I take resources from that activity and then assign them to my critical path activities, okay, and crash the project? Yes, you can do that, only if they have the skill set, knowledge, expertise, and experience to work on the critical path activities. Otherwise, you cannot do that, okay? So sometimes even if you have, if you have budget, maybe you don't get the experts, to work on your critical path activities. Maybe you have resources, but they don't have the skill set to work on your critical path activities, okay? So these are the reasons maybe sometimes you won't be able to do crashing even though you have the budget for it, all right? So now let's look at fast tracking. So in the exam question, if they tell you that, you cannot change the network diagram, all right, then you cannot do fast tracking, because see, this is, in our network diagram, we have those 3 activities in sequential order, okay? Now, if you say you cannot change your network diagram, meaning that you cannot, make them in parallel anymore, because they're telling you that you cannot change the network diagram. You have to keep it as is, all right? Also, if they tell you you have mandatory dependencies, there is a finish to start relationship in your project, in all those activities, meaning that you must finish your drywall to start your painting. You must finish your painting to start your carpeting. In those cases, if it is in the contract, if there is mandatory dependencies, you cannot do fast tracking. All right. So these are the reasons sometimes we do crashing because fast tracking is not allowed. Sometimes we do fast tracking because crashing is not possible. Okay. All right. Yes. I mean, I will go through the questions as well. We'll have a answer and question session. So please have your questions ready, and I will go through those. Okay. All right. Now, all right, so your PMP textbook, page 270. So question, so you cannot fast track? No, I mean, see, if, as I said, if there is a mandatory dependency, all right, if it is in the contract, your client is asking you, you should not work on painting and carpeting at the same time. There's a mandatory dependency. There's a finish to start relationship. You must finish your painting to start your carpeting. In that case, you cannot do painting and carpeting at the same time because it's in the contract. It's a mandatory dependency. It's a mandatory relationship. Okay, you cannot break it. But if it is not in the contract, then it's a discretionary dependency. It's up to you and your team members what you want to do. If you want to do activities in parallel, it's up to you. So what I'm saying is, yes, if there is mandatory dependency, you cannot do fast tracking.
Okay.
All right. Next one is your PMP textbook, page 270. What is the second graph really telling us? All right, let me see. So I believe you know about a scatter diagram. Okay, so a scatter diagram is a very cool diagram. It shows whether two variables are related or not, whether there is any interdependencies between any two variables. Okay. So the example that I gave in the book is not that realistic, okay, PMP score and salary relationship between those two. But, the reason I gave it because it will make sense to us, all right? So using a scatter diagram, you're trying to figure out whether there is any relationship between PMP score and your salary. I mean, you want to know whether if you get a high score in PMP, will that help you to make more money in future? That's what you want to see, all right? So you identified 10 very kind-hearted individuals. They were so kind that they shared their PMP score and also their salary information with you. All right. So you put it in a table, and then once you create a scatter diagram, and in the first graph, you see, there is the higher your score, the higher is your salary. Okay. If someone got 140 in PMP, now making 100,000. Someone got 190 in PMP, making 200,000. So there is a positive relationship, okay, correlationship between PMP and salary. So the more your PMP score, the better is your salary. Now in the second case, what I'm showing here is, again you got 10 other other scores and salary information, and in this case, you see that the higher your PMP score, the lower your salary. Okay, you got 190 in PMP, you're making 100,000. You got 145 maybe, and you're making 200,000. Okay, so there is a negative correlationship. Okay, so the better your PMP score, the less money you're making now. So you better don't do too good in PMP. That's what we are saying. Okay, so now if all the data points are all scattered, okay, so you can say, well, there is no relationship between PMP score and salary. So that's what I meant by this second graph. All right. Okay. Now the next question was, okay, why are not more extensive examples of CP, IF, and FBI, CA, PTA? Well, if you look at my book, I got few exercises on point of total assumption. I got, if you look at my 200 questions, I got a lot of questions on procurement management, on PTA, and final fee, and final cost, all these, okay. And so there are like actually quite a lot of examples actually in the book if you look at it, all right. And I know point of, we did not, I mean, we did not get the 200 question. Oh, okay, that's why maybe. Yes, and if you go through the 200 question at the back of the book, I got a lot of questions on procurement management, because in the exam you will have a lot of questions from risk and procurement management. All right, cost and time management, a lot of formula questions, a lot of math questions. So I have a lot of formula and math questions everywhere, all the topics, in all the topics. Okay, next one. Well, I know point of total assumption is a confusing concept. So I will briefly want to go through it if you like. Yes, I mean, okay, so let me go through this one. Why do many projects settle for fixed price contracts knowing that they will have to ask for changes before the end of the projects? Okay. So I think what you meant here, in a fixed price contract, we have a lot of change requests. Okay, so let me go through that. Okay. Okay. Okay, let me show you this. See, for a fixed price contract, the reason, you kind of need to understand why we go for a fixed price contract and why we go for a cost reimbursable contract and why we go for a time and material contract. Okay, so now the question is only about fixed price contract, so I want to discuss only fixed price contract. Okay, so fixed price contract, the reason we select it, because you need to understand something. If in the exam they don't mention anything, then we are always the buyer and you are the project manager from the buyer's organization. All right, so we are the buyer, and so we are the one. Yes, we are the buyer, and we are the one, we are purchasing equipments, materials, we are outsourcing our activities, we are outsourcing our project to the seller or the vendor, okay? So you always have to assume that you are the buyer's project manager. Now, you will always try to go for a contract that is less risky for the buyer and more risky for the seller, all right? So if you think about a fixed price contract, now what is a fixed price contract? In a fixed price contract, say you are the seller, okay? You are outsourcing activities, or you are outsourcing your project to me, or you are purchasing equipment materials from me. So for for your project, your requirement, your expert, your in-house team members, they can come up with a statement of work or a requirement document for your requirements, okay? So you have a very clear understanding about your requirements. So you are my buyer, you came to me and you are telling me this is my requirement document or a statement of work document, this is the contract, I will pay you $200,000, a lump sum amount for this project, please go and work on my project. Okay, so this is the most common one. You exactly know how much this project will cost you, all right? You know this project will cost you $200,000. So you are not taking that much risk here because total price is known to you from the very beginning. But I'm the seller, okay? I'm looking at your requirement and I'm kind of, I'm not sure whether I'll be able to finish your project on time or whether I'll be able to make any money in your project. I'm not sure, all right? So here, so two important points that you need to remember about fixed price contract, okay? So for a fixed price contract, who is taking the risk? And who is writing the statement of work document or a requirement document? So the seller is taking the risk, and the buyer mostly writes the statement of work document or a requirement document. Okay. Now, so the reason I am going as a buyer, you are going for this kind of contract because it's less risky for you. You know the total cost from the very beginning, and you know your requirement. You can come up with a statement of work document or a requirement document. These are the reasons you are going for this kind of contract. But even though I'm telling you that it is less risky for you, actually, there are risks here as well. You are telling me all that you will pay me is $200,000, all right? So I know maybe I'll not be able to make any money, but I want to be the lowest bidder. I want to get your project, so maybe I would say yes, I will do it for $200,000. But in my mind, I knew I will come up with a lot of change requests in future that you cannot even say no. You'll be in a situation where you cannot say no to my change request. If you say no, then your project will be on hold. So I mean, you will be the loser. If I cannot finish your project because of this change request that you are not approving, then your project will fail. You will be the loser. So 6 months, 5 months in the project, when I already did a lot of work, I already gave you a lot of equipment, materials, things like that. Now I'm coming up with a lot of change requests. You cannot even say no. You cannot simply kick me out. You cannot simply replace me with someone. You cannot even say no to my change request. And that's how I'll be making a lot of money out of you. All right. So you may ask, well, in this case, if the seller is coming up with a lot of change requests and spending a lot of money in the project, what we can do as a buyer, then what you can do is you can come up with this kind of point of total assumption. All right, PTA, point of total assumption, where you will be telling the seller, look, this is the cost point. Point of total assumption is the cost point. If you reach that point, if you spend that much money in the project, then any cost overrun, will be your full responsibility. I will not share anything with you. All right. So as a seller, I know I cannot simply come up with a lot of change requests and start spending a lot of money in the project and try to, I try to make you pay for those additional costs. I know that if I reach that cost point, any cost overrun will be my responsibility. Okay, so that is what you can do. In the contract, you can mention what should be the seller's target cost, what should be the seller's point of total assumption. Okay, you should always identify those very, very important terms, so that the seller will not be able to come up with a lot of change requests and spend a lot of money in the project. Now, if you want me to briefly explain PTA to you, I can also do that. But now that you're not asking me over here, so I don't know, whether I should go through it or not. But what I'm telling you that, in order to control the seller and their expenses, you can always impose target cost, point of total assumptions, all those in the contract. All right. Now, do you really need to pass proficient levels in all process groups to pass the PMP exam? Again, let me refer you back to PMI handbook. Okay. So let me go there. Okay, so the exam, you will just only learn whether you fail it or pass it. Okay, so the result is based on your overall performance on the exam. So it will have 3 different levels. Okay, proficient, moderate proficient, and below proficient. All right. So proficient is you are better than average. Moderate proficient is you are at the average level, and then below proficient is, your performance is below the average. Okay, so of course you cannot get below proficient in any of those knowledge areas or in any of those process groups. Now let me show you something else. Okay, let me show you this one here. So and then someone is also asking about the number of questions. Okay, so let me talk about that one. So you have those 5, this is your syllabus, okay? You've got those 5 process groups and 10 knowledge areas. So those knowledge areas, questions from those knowledge areas will be in different process groups, okay? So they may have questions on scope management, time, cost, quality management, on executing process group, for planning process group, things like that, okay? So what you're saying here is, again, this percentage is pretty much what the PMI is suggesting us, okay? So what we are saying, around 13% of 26 questions will be from initiating, around 48 questions from planning, around 60 from executing, around 50 from monitoring and controlling, around 16 or 8% of the questions will be from closing. Now, all those knowledge areas are covered in these 5 process groups. And yes, it's true, you need to pass all those different areas to pass this test, okay? You cannot get below proficient in one of those areas and pass the test, okay? You have to get at least moderate and proficient, okay? Moderate, proficient, and proficient in all those 5 process groups to pass this test. Now, they don't really tell us, okay? They don't really tell us, what is the passing score. So what we assume is this. We assume that let me show you. So we assume that you know that there will be 200 questions, okay? So out of that 200 questions, 25 questions over here. So out of that 200 questions, 25 questions don't have any value. Those are pre-test questions, okay? So they will score you on 175 questions. So out of that 175, if you can correctly answer somewhere between 114 to 121 questions, meaning 65% to 69%, you'll pass the test. All right? So that is the thing. So yes, to answer the question, you don't really have to be proficient in all the process groups. Moderate proficient will also do, but not below proficient. Okay, you cannot be below average and pass this test. Okay. Okay, how accurate are the percentage for the whole test? Well, if you're asking me about the number of questions, so this is pretty accurate. All right. So these are all the questions we have, and I think I went through everything. So let me quickly show you those questions one more time, and if you want more clarification, I can do that. So, all right. So is there any more questions, guys? Let me see. Okay. Question, what is the best way to learn the input tools and techniques and outputs? Well, that's a very good question. That's a very good question. All right. Used to be that below in the low areas, but overall had to make a mark that constitutes, okay. Okay, no wonder more are not doing well because of this. All right, well, they are separate PTA calculation. All right, they did 4 hours on this on Saturday, correct PM. All right. All right, let me talk about this one. What is the best way to learn the IT input tools and techniques and outputs? Well, the thing is, I mean, I never ask anyone to remember all these 47 processes. I don't ask anyone to remember all these 525 plus inputs, tools, and techniques and outputs. It's impossible. If anyone tells me, so well, you have to remember, more than 525 inputs, tools, and techniques and outputs, I will say I will never take this test. All right. So now about the processes. Even though I think PMBOK is very dry, extremely difficult to understand. Okay. I mean, I don't like it at all. But what I think is they did a great job with those 47 processes, and they perfectly make sense in real life, 100%. Okay. So about the 47 processes, the way I explain those 47 processes is, I always go through real life case studies, what we do in real life. So when I'm discussing about, time management processes, what I do is, we go through how to come up with a, project schedule in real life, and then I explain the processes, okay? So the best way to remember those processes will be to connect them to the real life and try to understand what we do in real life and how the book is explaining, the same thing using those processes, okay? About input tools and techniques and outputs, let me talk a little bit about that. Now, as I said, okay, there are 525 plus input tools and techniques and outputs, and it's almost impossible to remember those, okay? So what I do is I do this. Let me show you. So it will help you quite a bit, okay, if you do this. See, even though we have 525 plus input tools and techniques and outputs, some of the inputs, tools, and techniques and outputs, are common one. You'll always see them everywhere in all the processes, okay? So it is good to remember those common inputs, tools, and techniques and outputs. It will cover more than 50%, okay? So if you know that you'll see them again and again and again in all the processes, then you don't really have to remember those. Like enterprise environmental factors, organizational process assets, project management plan, all right? So especially enterprise environmental factors and organizational process assets, you will see them 95% of the time or even more. Project management plan, your work performance, data, information, and report, these are your common inputs, all right? You'll always see them. So remember those 5 or 6 common inputs. Expert judgment, project management, information system or PMIS, meetings, facilitation techniques, and analytical techniques. These are your common tools and techniques. Again, you'll see them again and again as tool and technique. And your change requests, mostly your corrective actions, preventive actions, and defect repairs. Those are your change requests. And all kind of updates, these are your common outputs. So remember this list, okay? It will help you a lot to remember inputs, tools, and techniques, and outputs. And again, if you really understand the processes, okay, and what we are doing in these processes, you need to remember the key inputs, tools, and techniques, and outputs, not all of them actually. So if you can remember the key one, you should be okay in the exam. And also if you can remember this common one, all right? So my answer to you is try to remember the key inputs, tools, and techniques, and output, and also those common ones. And also in the book, what I try to do, if I know, okay, which input, tools, and techniques, and outputs they will be asking me about, and there is a very good chance that I have a question on that. All right, so if you go through the 30 questions that I have at the back of the book, you will see I got a lot of questions on input, tools, and techniques, and outputs. Please pay attention to those ones. There is a reason why I have those questions, okay, because these are the key inputs, tools, and techniques, and outputs they will be asking you in the exam. Yes. I mean, if you look at my quick reference guide, I just mentioned, these are common, common inputs, common tools and techniques, and common outputs. So let me show you. So if you look at the quick reference guide, look at here. Look at here. I have listed down, for all these knowledge. Oh, sorry. Let me open it. Say this one. Say cost. Okay. So what I did here is, if you look at this, I listed down all the inputs, tools, and techniques, and outputs. But again, I said common inputs, I said common outputs. And if you look at the last page of my quick reference guide, over here, I'm telling you, okay, let's do this one. Over here, I'm telling you what are the common inputs over here. See, common inputs. So refer to page 1, project management processes. So, and then I'm telling you what are the common tools and techniques and what are the common outputs. So this is what I meant by that. It is one here. Okay, so I mentioned here, so these are my common inputs. Look at this, common inputs, common tools and techniques, and common outputs. All right? Okay, so this is, this information is in the quick reference guide. This information is in the book, everywhere. So, few things, guys, I will highly suggest you. First thing is, please, whatever book you like, please go through it from beginning to end at least 2 or 3 times before you take the exam. Please go through 1,000 questions before you sit for the exam. Examcentral.net, you can practice, 4 hours exam over there, or Elaine will give you 200 questions. I think that's what you do. So you need to practice, okay? Sitting down for 4 hours and taking an exam. Also, you need to come up with a cheat sheet, just like this one, okay? You need to come up with a cheat sheet just like, where is it? Here, this one, in less than 10 minutes. So you need to practice it a lot, all right? Make sure that you can do it in less than 10 minutes, all right? Oliver Layman, Oliver Layman, that's another site, oliverlayman.com, okay? And then, he got 75 questions over there. And the good thing is you will see a lot of other links from his side, okay? So again, I checked out some of those links, and the questions are very, very old, so please be careful about it, okay? So, all right, yes. I mean, there are so many links, so many resources, okay? But what my suggestion would be, don't get too confused, okay? You don't really need to actually, go through so many materials, so many test books, so many other resources, okay? Just stick with 1 or 2 good books, go through all the questions, understand them all, practice a little bit more, in an exam simulator like, examcentral.net. Give the 200 question 4 hours exam, 2 or 3 of them, and make sure that you can write down all your formulas and all your processes. And if you do these things, study really hard for 2 to 3 weeks, all right, you'll be good. Okay, so I think I went through Elaine, I think I went through all the questions. If there is anything else, let me see. Yes.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Okay. Thanks a lot, guys.
Hi, this is
Yes, I
Elaine.
can.
Hi, Sohel.
Hi.
Hi, yeah, thank you so much for being on the call. Thank you so much. That was great. That was great.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any last questions for Sohel? Okay, so I think Sohel, the recording, someone asked, can they look at the recording? Is it all right for me to share the recording with my clients?
Yes, please do so.
Okay, so as soon as it'll take about 20 minutes to fix, and as soon as it's finished, I'll send you the link, and I'll send out to those who attended the class tonight. I'll send you the link so you can review.
Great.
So
Okay.
thank you very much. This is Cherie Bruce. Excellent.
Thanks a lot, guys. Yeah,
All
appreciate
right.
that.
Thank you. Have a great evening, everyone. Thank you, Sohel.
Yeah, thank you, Elaine. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye, everyone.